When I saw this video, I was shocked to the core by what came to light there. No ordinary mortal could ever have imagined that. And if you want to support this channel for this research work, I'd really appreciate a like, a subscription, and some hype. And now just listen to the intro of this video, and I promise you, it's going to hit hard.
By now, it's pretty much out in the open. We're supposed to be ready for war by 2029 and fight a major war. So, hey, what's that supposed to mean? Now we're expected to create an EU army. What does that even mean? In the end, there is a common plan for where this is going, and that's digital slavery.
At first, I didn't want to believe it, and then today the news came out on all the news sites. The German Air Force chief warns Putin, we're ready to fight tonight. And that's why I'm already bringing you the first part of this video series today, because what's happening there, I really have to say it. What are we actually supposed to do now? Are we supposed to be made so afraid that we'll end up agreeing to the next war? Or is all of this just about digitizing citizens so that in the future they can give up any, and I really mean any, responsibility, and that we have people who take care of our lives? And just the preliminary talk alone, I got goosebumps when I heard it.
This is global digital control. I have the feeling that this so-called elite knows that they are somewhat immune because, of course, every day, so many extreme fear scenarios are thrown at people. He doesn't realize that with each redistribution from the bottom to the top, each pandemic and each real war, he becomes a bit poorer.
By now, the social climate has already been shaped so that people actually want this. People want to become poorer. People are no longer interested in even standing up and saying, now it's our turn, now we come first. And that's exactly what is highlighted again in this video. I don't know about you, but I don't want to become a digital citizen, even though I live a very digital life. Sure, that puts me in a tough position. Since that's what I stand for and I want to inform you, I really have to say I don't want the government to be able to completely monitor me and control me entirely. The title of this video, which I'll link below by the way, was Why Did the CIA Create the AfD? I'm warning you in advance, this video is almost 2.5 hours long in total. And today we're getting the first part, which isn't quite as explosive yet, but we definitely need it for the next part. Because I tracked all the financial flows and checked whether he's really telling the truth there.
Heiko, you're living dangerously. Did you also have that feeling in recent years, since you really go right into the rat race and actually name names?
You probably already guessed it, it's about Heiko Schöning, so-called public enemy number one. And this person has a lot to say, especially things that are supposed to be a real wake-up call for all of us. For example, why I make these videos and often have information that sometimes no one else has, why I make these videos, but also how I learn from them at the same time. This person, right? However, he plays the game, let's call it chess, even better than I do, because he understands the structures and patterns behind it so well that he can explain the whole thing to us simply and clearly. And yes, I really have to say, he wrote a book before the pandemic where he explained how the pandemic would unfold. And he also mentioned some things in his video, for example, about the flow of money here in Germany. Everything he says is right. And now we're going to dive deep into this because he has a lot to say that you really should listen to.
And to put it briefly, going public protects you. I've also talked to others in the past who have already made some things public before. And in the end, they said, yes, going public protects you. And another person also said, well, no, you can't really do this under a pseudonym, but you are in the public interest, Mr. Anthrax.
Do you know most of the YouTube channels that don't put themselves out there, that don't have a legal notice, that don't show their own face up front, where nobody really knows the person's real name? That's true, these channels do pop up. Most of the time, these channels get banned pretty quickly. And because of this public presence, like Daniele Ganserer, for example, it makes it really hard for people to just get rid of us. Because it's out in the open. Maybe you heard about it, Collier Barkhorn. Just yesterday, with the video that put Die Welt or even ZDF under maximum pressure after the video surfaced from Ulrich Siegmund. I'm saying it correctly for you now, just to show that you've been lied to once again. That's exactly how it happened when the picture was released. And once again, they went after you. I had to deceive, but because Aktien mit Kopf is so much in the public eye, there was a huge problem, and the video went viral.
No, we can create something better, and that's what we do with education. That means seeing, looking behind the scenes, looking behind the structures. It's all a web of lies, and they're just people. There are only a few people. They're just families with family disputes. It's really nothing different from what we have on a small scale, just on a global scale.
And I have something just for that for you, namely Berlin Living. I've already disclosed it in a video before, and I'm going to do it again now. Exactly, because I don't want to throw money at some huge families just to get a few cents back. That's why Berlin Living has especially made it their mission to give something back to the people. Among other things, they are building about 700 residential units in Berlin in the Konrad Wolf Quarter. And if you want to participate in that, you can buy bonds on these buildings, on these properties. You easily get a smooth 8% return over 5 years by investing in these residential units. That people get living space on one hand, and on the other hand, affordable housing. And as a third point, in places where there really truly is a shortage of apartments, this company actually builds facilities so that we can continue to live in the future and don't have to struggle so much. You can invest money there in real estate bonds for 5 years, starting from 1,000 euros, get 8% interest, and you don't have to worry about anything. Which, by the way, is a very lucrative business because you can offset inflationary pressure with it. And yes, I really have to say I love this company for what it does. It just gives something back to people instead of constantly only taking, exploiting, and doing absolutely nothing for people. And I'm going to put a link down here for you, right at the very top. Just have a conversation there. Talk to the people. How important it is not to have to rely on those huge companies or families anymore. The time has come for us to finally take our lives, our investments, and our future into our own hands. Because only then can we stop this whole global disaster.
It's actually the most normal thing in the world to simply stand up for my truth. For years, I was Simo the teacher, Simo the insurance guy. I worked for Munich Re for years. Now I'm just glad to be Simo. Just to stand up for my truth. To stand for what I am, for what makes me who I am. And I also think, for example, if you take a look at Ben and the Hocker interview, I think we're at the beginning of a consciousness revolution. If we look at these torchbearers who went ahead 10, 20, 30 years ago, like Sarah Sarrazin or Daniele Ganser, they were really taken down by the public broadcasters. I think it's really cool to have these options with the alternatives right now. Also, to be able to justify yourself a bit, your opposing position, to lay it out there, because this whole house of lies, whether it's the media, politics, or the church, seems to be collapsing in on itself somehow. If you take a closer look, they're all somehow working together. So I think this is the age of the enlightened, right?
And I completely agree with that. I was always Sasha, the trader, the stock trader. Yes, the one who spent all day dealing with financial structures and always followed the money of the big players. Again and again, every day I was focused on looking at other people's money and where is there an investment amount. Today I can stand by my opinion, and that's so important. And when I read your comments, I always have to say it. Yes, it really warms my heart because I'm not alone anymore. And we all know this situation. You talk to the neighbors, you talk to someone out there, and they tear you down because they believe exactly the lies of the public broadcasters, for example. Don't you think so? Just 2 or 3 days ago, they told us that Elon Musk and Tony Robbins, yes, started the conflict in Belfast. They've already served us so many lies. And the AI video that ZDF released, where supposedly there were deportees, which all turned out to be pure fabrication and a construct of lies. And then we're allowed to process this on our channels and present it to you. That we're being lied to from start to finish. And at the same time, we have extreme problems talking to people on the street because they still believe exactly this nonsense, and you even lose your structures. You lose the people who are close to you. Today I showed a joke picture. There's The Rock, who says, "I'm the best actor of all time." And on the other side, there's Zelensky saying, "Amateur." Just that alone caused a huge stir on my WhatsApp status again. How can you do that? You're polarizing people with it. Yes, he's fighting for our freedom here in Germany. This person, as American television just confirmed, operates one of the largest biolabs on this planet, which, by the way, needs to be protected. And then I just wonder, oh, right, what happened to the corruption? Why is nobody here from the establishment parties talking about it? Why is nobody in public broadcasting talking about it? Then the citizen would probably have to start thinking about what really happens with their tax money.
Do we have to keep going like this? Do we have to let ourselves be led into wars now? Do we have to create an EU army now? Do we now have to wage war against other European peoples and all that? No, we don't have to, if we just understand who's behind it.
I don't know about you. I definitely won't let myself be led into a war. And I will do everything I can to make sure that my children aren't led into war either. What did Droge say after being asked by Lanz, "Will you send your children to the front as well?" And she reacted absolutely furious. "This isn't about my children." No, that's exactly the problem we have. And the fear-mongering, also what I told you, we are at war tonight, ready for war against Russia. This rhetoric causes so much fear among people out there that they no longer care about what's actually going on with corruption in Ukraine. What is Donald Trump actually doing back there? Oh, so for his birthday, he's doing cage matches, while Biden was still hanging up rainbow flags and taking pictures with, I don't know what you call these people, but definitely with those people there. I think we shouldn't overrate a president's birthday celebration. I just hope that he has finally brought peace now. And no, I don't support what he's doing there either. But the people out there, they're just living from one moment to the next because they're just running in the hamster wheel, and some of them don't even know how they're going to pay their rent anymore. That's why we're making a bit more video content here again. That's why there will be a next part about this, probably tomorrow or the day after. And that one is really intense because, among other things, it's also about the party structure.
And right now, there's also a huge international opportunity because a lot of good truth tellers are coming together there.
All the ones you describe in your books, they are so well connected with each other that they look down on statistical variables on the 7.5, 8 billion people, and at most just smirk about it because they somehow have so much power in their hands. Or would you say it's all a construct of lies that could collapse at any time?
That can collapse at any time, and if you look at the longer history, you can see again and again that it does collapse. All the empires keep collapsing again and again, otherwise we would still be speaking Babylonian today. Then we would still be ruled by Rome.
By the way, every empire, every reign of terror that has fallen so far, there really hasn't been a single empire that lasted for several hundred years. And every time it was brave people like you out there watching right now who said, "No, we won't stay silent anymore. We won't look the other way anymore. We will take action. We will do something as far as it is within our power." And that's exactly why I want to thank all people once again. If I were broadcasting here but had no viewers, then the whole thing would fade away. If such, yes, investigative reporters didn't have any viewers and it didn't resonate with people, then no one would care about what's going on here. But since there are more and more of us, the situation is becoming more and more precarious for the politicians. The German Ethics Council has just recently rejected the idea that social media needs to be restricted that much. The politicians are beside themselves because they wanted to introduce the digital passport. And yes, once again, something like this was stopped because they were afraid that the people might finally have had enough. I made a video this morning about what would happen if the elections in Saxony-Anhalt turned out unfavorably or favorably for us.
How they are actually connected. And I described it that way in the second part of my first book. There's a chapter called How Drug Dealer Families Rose to World Power. Because that's actually where you can see it. This drug trade has been going on continuously for over 250 years up to today. And some families made a lot of money with the Chinese opium trade. And this continues up to today.
And this is exactly where we come to a point where I'm going to end this video for now. And there's a very specific reason for that. Because I absolutely had to tell you this backstory. But now I'd have to tack on another roughly 45 minutes for the next step. Because of course I also sat down and traced the flow of money. And I'm telling you, you'll never believe who's all involved in this. And I looked at a lot of companies. I even used banking terminals at times and looked at order patterns to see how money is being moved around. And I really have to say, this money has to come from somewhere. And it's not just created out of thin air, but I wonder how some families in the next video could become so incredibly rich. To put it bluntly, a taxi company with 5 employees. But more about that in the next video. And I'm telling you, I won't get any chance to catch my breath in that video. It'll just keep coming one thing after another.